Hi there, I'm Matt and this is Kiwi Cowboy BBQ, where I share my love for smoke and fire cooking. I'm a huge fan of beef ribs, and short ribs, also known as plate ribs or Dino ribs, are one of the richest, meatiest bites in barbecue. I often slow cook short ribs on the Blackfire Indiana Joe, so thought I'd share this cook with you. When buying your ribs, make sure there's plenty of meat on the bone. This might sound obvious, but some ribs are more bone and fat than meat. These ribs are around 1.5 kgs in total and very meaty with a nice bit of fat marbling running through them. I'm trimming off some of the fat and leaving the membrane on the bone to prevent the meat from completely falling off later in the cook. I'm using yellow mustard as a binder and salt, pepper and garlic as seasoning. I'm not worried about trying to create a perfect bark on these ribs, I just want a liberal all over seasoning. Then into the fridge they go overnight to let the seasoning work its magic. I'll be cooking low and slow on the Blackfire Indiana Joe 16-inch offset smoker, running it around 110 to 125 degrees Celsius, and estimate it'll take around 8 hours. Time to pull the ribs from the fridge and bring them up to ambient temperature. I've placed the ribs on a spare cooking grill, which helps with moving them in and out or repositioning in the cook chamber. When cooking on the Indiana Joe, I set a 30-minute countdown timer as a reminder to check the firebox, then add another split or two if necessary. Obviously, this depends on the size of your splits, the type of wood you're burning, etc. I generally use ash and oak splits, and find the ash tends to burn cleaner, whereas the oak burns slower and produces more smoke. So in the ribs go, and I'll be using a meter probe to keep track of the cook. I'm aiming for around 110 to 125 degrees Celsius to start off this cook, before wrapping the ribs in butcher's paper once they reach an internal temperature of around 65 to 70 degrees Celsius. This is when the internal temperature stalls due to the rendered fat cooling the protein. I'll then increase the temperature of the smoker up to around 140 degrees Celsius. This will push the ribs through the stall and take them up to an internal temperature of around 90 to 95 degrees before pulling them and letting them rest. After a couple of hours, the ribs are starting to dry up and form a bit of a bark, so I'm going to spritz them with a mix of Worcester sauce and water. I'll keep doing this every hour or so until they're ready to wrap. So now they've finally reached 65 degrees Celsius internal temperature. So I'm going to wrap them in butcher's paper and increase the Blackfire to around 140 degrees and drop them in for a few more hours. Weather conditions and the type of wood you're using are all contributing factors to how your cook is going to proceed. The challenge of fire management is part of the fun and satisfaction when it comes to cooking outdoors. I'm battling a thunderstorm during this cook with intermittent showers, but that's the nature of the beast and UK weather. So after 10 hours, they've finally hit 95 degrees internal temperature, so I've pulled them and they're resting. This cook took longer than expected due to the weather conditions combined with filming. Obviously, each time I open up the cook chamber to film, the temperature drops. This cook requires a bit of patience and plenty of time on your hands, but the end result is well worth it. Extremely rich, tender, while still retaining a nice bite. Beef short ribs, accompanied by a fresh pickled salad, adding some acid to balance the richness of the beef, and of course a few cheeky fries on the side. Add to that a visually stunning smoke ring, creating a beautiful looking plate. Extremely Moorish, rich and beefy. Slow cooked on the Blackfire Indiana Joe's 16-inch offset smoker, producing a beautiful result. Tender, juicy, and just the right amount of smoke. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe, like, and leave any comments. Take care out there, and thanks for watching.